Yeah, well, like $40 for the bills today. As you let me know.
Sure, have it down there. It's right from my finger. She didn't come.
Hey, buddy. Where you going? Baby, how are you? Good, how are you? Did you give me 5? Thank you. What? Why would I keep it? Why would I keep it?
Mostly because this is mountain.
Hello.
just in case John's going to be here tonight. Notice. Not sure how he's feeling.
Wasn't he here one other time?
He was here Sunday morning. Pretty tired though, and understandable. But just in case. Sam? Yeah. Try to leave it muted.
I could have been sitting there.
Yeah, you missed it. You missed it. Yeah. You saw me walk by.
I could have been sitting there.
So I get that look. I give him that look. Yeah. Oh, I mean, once I was sitting on that side, I realized it was somebody's spot. I realized, oh, yeah, somebody's spot, so I better move. They didn't say anything, but the kind of look they gave.
You did?
Yes, we did. Okay, you okay? Yeah, been thinking about you.
Been hard.
Yeah.
She's your youngest sister too, huh?
That was the baby of the family. Yeah. My aunt passed away last Friday.
Oh, really? There's been a lot of deaths the last few days.
My brother called me on Sunday. He was hoping they made those had any kind of arrangements they made, but they hadn't yet. So he called me on Sunday to let me know. Yeah. And she was the baby of the family too. And that's all three siblings are gone now. My uncle passed away quite some time ago.
Sorry to hear about your sister.
Thank you.
The family, I think Dale talked like wasn't maybe going to get together until that Thanksgiving time since it's close.
But, yeah, the day before Memorial Day, because there's so many relatives.
Yeah, right.
And everybody comes home for Thanksgiving, and so just good.
Now, all your sisters around close by, or are they your immediate siblings, or they're all out?
Yeah, my sisters are close by. One lives in Cleveland, Oklahoma. Sue does. And the rest of them are pretty much out around there.
Okay.
I've got one brother that lives in Guyman, and one brother that lives in something Texas up there, close to Guyman.
But then their children, then your niece and nephews, all scattered
all that.
out.
Yeah, they're scattered out there.
A nice little memorial for her. That'd be nice.
Yeah, and and my brother-in-law was really thoughtful because he said, "You guys have had this trip planned for 3 years.
Yeah.
He said, we'll just wait till y'all get back." And
Well, that's what you're going to do.
we leave in the morning.
Tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
This is what, 10 days? 7
It'll
days?
actually be 12.
12
when we
days.
get back.
No, where's it going this time?
Well, Pendleton.
Wow, that would be neat. Oh, that would be really neat. Yeah.
How long would it take you to get actually through the canal? Because you have to go
I really don't know. I really don't. I really don't know.
How many days to get through the canal, Dale?
We're going through the new canal, so it's not going to take very long.
Oh, it's the new side, huh? So they don't have those locks, because it's like straight through?
No, it's got locks in
Is
it.
it?
But I don't know anything about it. I mean, it's all I know is it's the new one.
That's just older than one
So.
that died. She had a trip also planned. Mexico. So he said, wait till I'll get back, and everybody's coming. Mother's doing real good. I mean, she's scared. In a way, I feel like the sister that died saved her because people were around her. I hope. And she
Hello, Pat.
out of the blue, she got her arm was swelling like crazy, and then she had an instant killing blood infection.
Gotta be good.
Oh, my.
It is good.
Just good.
Well, good is good.
She had died of that. So
That
it's
was
like,
good. So, good.
It just looks mysterious. Tracy, really?
it's really strange.
The way that Tony would known about cancer.
Oh, I know what you mean. How you feel, and
Did too low for the
to get a good supper. Feeling all right?
I mean, it just, just amazing how.
I mean, this is crazy because that instant blood infection just popped up overnight, And my brother and my sister happened to be there, and my brother-in-law says, "What's that big old? What's your arms swollen so big for?" And she goes, "It's just that." Well, she's skinny in the arms.
Yeah.
He said, "That's not fat. That's something going wrong." And so then my other brother-in-law and sister went up there, and Mary's had blood clots,
Still warm, huh?
So Jay says,
That's good.
"That's not that. And that looks like blood clot. That looks like Mary had." And he says, "Let's get you to the ER."
At least you said thin.
They took her to ER.
I'm not
they
sure.
Checked.
You usually do what?
I usually sit there.
It's all right.
I almost got that sick.
I stopped by next door.
It's a good thing you got here.
Yeah.
So it's like,
They're the most comfortable ones. You like it because of the wall.
she saved mothers. And that really what she did because nobody would do it. And mother had shown
You can lean back
her
there,
swollen
too.
arm to the people that work there. And they just overlook it. They just,
See that?
it's even a big deal. They wouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So it's funny how things work out.
Yeah.
But I got her yesterday. She says, "Oh, the swelling's going down," and she said, "But they can IV you and
Oh, Pat?
Probably not.
No, probably so.
A week ago, you should be really mad.
Yeah.
So they're pretty much on the television, yeah.
I wonder if everybody's been looking.
Yeah.
It's like a kick me sign on the back.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, the bell rang and the clock on the wall says it's time to start. We're in Genesis 33. We will begin with verse 16 tonight, and we'll finish chapter 33 and get into 34 tonight. Stephanie is sick tonight. Maxine probably is not feeling real well, being cold and everything. And let's see, I'm guessing Kathy's probably down south where it's warmer. John Nipp's still very short in energy. So, but he was here Sunday morning. So,
You were both here Sunday morning.
yes, they were. So that's all I know that is sick. And so, Jensen, would you like to lead us in prayer?
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for all your many wonderful blessings. We thank you for allowing us the opportunity to gather here this evening to study another portion of your word. Please be with us to help us have open minds and open hearts, and that we study it and learn how to apply it in our lives to become better servants for you. And forgive us of our sins and repent. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, let's begin at verse 16, and let's read verse 16 and, well, let's just read through the end of the chapter, 16 through 20. Ron, you want to read that for me when you get turned to it?
Your chapter 33.
Yes, chapter 33, I'm sorry.
16 through 20.
Yes, please.
Genesis.
Yes.
So Esau returned that day on his way to Seir, and Jacob journeyed to Succoth, built himself a house, and made booths for his livestock. Therefore the name of the place is called Succoth. Then Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Paddan-aram, and he pitched his tent before the city. And he bought the parcel of land where he pitched his tent from the children of Hamor, Shechem's father, for 100 pieces of money. Then he erected an altar there and called it El-Eloah Israel.
Okay. Now, obviously, we've been talking about the fact that Esau and Jacob, they got together. Esau has returned back to Seir, as verse 16 says. Now Jacob is building a house, and I'll show you a map in a little bit of exactly where Succoth is located, but it's not far from where they have been all this time. Now, just so you know, if you'll notice in verse 17, it says, and made booths for his livestock. And therefore the name of the place is called Succoth. The word Succoth literally means booths of branches. And so basically what he did is he made a fence, if you will, out of branches and everything for his livestock, okay? But it says Jacob journeyed to Succoth. And the name is derived from the action that Jacob took there, obviously. Jacob stopped short of Bethel, which is his intended destination, back in Genesis 28 and verses 19 through 22. Jensen, if you had that, if you'll read that for me, please.
Caught me off guard.
I'm sorry.
Genesis
28 verses 19 through 22. This is just telling us that this was Bethel was his intended destination. Well, there's Cal, man. Did you get your deer?
Yes.
You did. Okay. Poor deer. I wasn't talking about Billy either.
I've got to go tomorrow to get her.
Oh, okay. She's down south. All right, Jensen. 28 verses 19 through 22.
And he called the name of that place Bethel, but the name of that city had been Luz previously. Then Jacob made a vow, saying, If God will be with me, and keep me in this way that I am going, and give me bread to eat and clothing to put on, so that I come back to my father's house in peace, then the Lord shall be my God. And this stone which I have set as a pillar shall be God's house. And all that you give me, I will surely give a tenth to you.
Okay, and then we also look at chapter 31 and verse 13. Debbie, if you had that.
I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed the pillar and where you made a vow to me. Now arise, get out of this land, and return to the land of your family.
Okay, so he's here in Succoth, as we see here in Genesis 33, verses 17, and he's built himself a house here. His ultimate destination will be to go back to Bethel. We do not know how much time he spends here in Succoth, but that he builds this house, and these booths, or this fence, if you will, indicates that he plans to be here for a fairly lengthy period of time. At the very least, sufficient time passes for Dinah to have aged enough to go out to see the women of the land. Look at Genesis 34 and just read verse 1, if you will, Pat.
Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land.
Okay. And so they were here for that period of time. Now, just to show you where Succoth is located, this is where it is. You can see that they came down from Gilead to Mahanaim. And Pat, I think we told you last week what Mahanaim means. Double camp?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Penuel, and they go from Penuel to Succoth. And that's where he is right now. Okay? So let's look at verses 18 through 20 now. Florence, if you'd read that for me. Well, we've already read it, so we don't need to read that part of it. But what we see there in verse 18 says, Then Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, which it is in the land of Canaan, when he came from Padan Aram, and he pitched his tent before the city. Verse 19 is the point I want to bring out, is he bought the parcel of land where he had pitched his tent. So he purchased the purchase of land to build an altar is the purpose of it. As I mentioned already, however long he stayed was time that he remained outside of the promised land. But the piece of land purchased would later become the burial plot of Joseph. Look at Joshua, the 24th chapter, if you will, and verse 32. Donna, do you have that? Joshua 24, verse 32?
Hold on a second. I had Genesis.
I'm sorry?
I had Genesis. Hold on.
I skipped Florence, didn't I? No, Florence is
It just messed her up, so.
She has it, so I haven't got it. She goes.
If you have it, Florence, read it for me. I'm sorry.
The bones of Joseph, which the children of Israel had brought up out of Egypt, they buried at Shechem in the plot of ground which Jacob had brought from the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of silver.
It says I'm streaming here,
Okay.
so I don't know.
Let me check with John.
Of silver, and which had become an inheritance of the children of Joseph.
Okay. And then, let's see here. So, further, this purchase showed that Jacob, in reliance upon the promise of God, regarded Canaan as his own home and the home of his seed. Jacob's return to Canaan ends the same way as Abraham's journey, settling in Shechem and worshiping. Go back to Genesis 12 chapter, if you will, and look at verses 6 through 9. Now, Donna, if you'll read that for me, please.
Abram passed through the land as far as the site of Shechem, to the oak of the Moreh. Now the Canaanite was then in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, To your descendants I will give this land. So he built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. Then he proceeded from there to the mountain of the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent with Beth on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord, and he called upon the name of the Lord.
So although purchasing the land and erecting the altar were acts of faith, Jacob errs in settling into the land. He made a vow to worship in Bethel when he returned to the promised land, but it takes him at least 10 years to fulfill this vow. And the latter part of this says, then he erected, verse 20 says, of 33, then he erected an altar there and called it El Elohi Israel, which simply means God, the God of Israel. Okay? Now, just to show you that we're talking, Shechem, of course, is right here. Okay? We have Peniel, Succoth, and here's Shechem. Okay? And any comments? Let's see here. I might be able. There we go. There's a little blue arrow. Any comments on chapter 33? Yes, Pat.
Well, there's two words there, Shechem and Shechem. And one means peace, doesn't it? Shechem?
Succoth means branches, booth.
Okay, but what it's Succoth is not Shechem, is it?
No. No, there's two different cities here. You have Succoth, and then just a few miles from Succoth is Shechem. Okay?
And you're saying Shechem, not Shechem.
Well, you can call it Shechem if you want to. I call it Shechem.
I thought they were two different places.
No. No, you're thinking Succoth, S-U-C-C-O-T-H, and Shechem, or Shechem as you're calling it, S-H-E-C-H-E-M. They are two different places.
In my Bible, it's spelled different. It's spelled S-H-E, there was no C-H-E-M, meant peace in the Bible I was reading.
Well, I'm not...
And they related it to Jacob's vow that he would return to his father's land in peace.
Yeah, he's to go back to Bethel. That's the vow that he made.
Okay.
Shechem, though, is he settled here in Shechem and worshiping eventually, or Shechem, however you want to say it. But it's also, if you look, it's not very far from Bethel, which is where ultimately he is to go.
Okay, I just got those words mixed up.
Well, that's okay. I mean, the version you have may spell it a little bit different. I don't know.
Well, I think it's spelled differently in the outline, but I didn't bring it.
Yeah.
Is it spelled different in your outline?
No,
it was in there.
It's spelled exactly. Oh, you're talking about? No, it's spelled S-H-E-C-H-E-M, just as I have it on the map.
Yeah,
So
well,
it's
here's verse 11.
verse
of
11.
the same chapter, and tell me what that says.
Please take my blessing that is brought to you, because God has dealt graciously with me, and because I have enough. So he urged him, and he took it. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I must have the wrong thing. Mine doesn't say anything like that.
Are you in chapter 33?
No, I mean 34.
34?
Well, it was that word. It's that name up there is the reason I had.
Oh, then Shechem said to her father
Yes,
and
that's it.
her brothers, you're ahead of me a little
I
bit.
know, but
I promise you we'll get to it.
okay, all right.
I was going to say that maybe because in the King James Version of verse 18, and Jacob came to Shalem, a city of Shechem.
Right.
That's why I
That's
thought
probably
it
what
was
she,
different.
that's probably what
the
she
peace part.
read. That's different than New King James Version.
Then Jacob came safely to the city of Shechem, or Shechem.
Yeah, that's in the New King James Version. The King James, and Jacob came to Shalem.
Oh,
A city.
Salem? Is it Salem, S-A?
No,
Shalem. Shalem, a city of Shechem.
Oh, really?
Yeah, mine has a footnote, Shalem, city of, verse 18.
Uh-huh.
So it must be an alternate spelling.
I guess so. I didn't look at the King James Version, but that must be where you're getting it from, Pat. So thank you, Debbie.
Yeah, clear it up.
So there is a different spelling there if you look at the King James Version from what we have here in the New King James Version. So
Well, it mentions both. I mean, it mentions the Shalem and the Shechem.
and the Shechem,
These words.
The Shechem.
Shechem, somewhere in there. Any other comments on chapter 33? All right, let's look at chapter 34 then. Chapter 34 in your handout will be on page 84, obviously. And Victor Eskew titles it Dinah's Defilement. And he actually has three different titles you could use: Dinah's Defilement, or Defilement, Deceit, and Death, or Rape and Retribution. And he uses Genesis 34 verse 7 as the key verse. So when you look at that, we read verse 1 just a moment ago, and in verse 1, the point I want to bring out is, says, "Now Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she had born to Jacob, went out to see the daughters of the land." So when God's children intermingle with those of the world, there are some dangers that we can expect. And this is the beginning of Dinah's problem. Family history alone should have told her that it was unwise to go among the Palestinians as an unwed woman. But she did this anyway, and she should have known that Egyptians and Canaanites regarded unmarried women abroad in the land as legitimate prey and should not have gone about unattended. We can go back and look at some scriptures that I put up there. Genesis chapter 12 and verse 5. Cal, would you read that for me, please?
Pages are old and are stuck together. 12:5. And Abram took Sarah his wife and Lot his nephew and all their possessions which they had accumulated, and the persons which they had acquired in Haran, and he set out for the land of Canaan. Thus they came to the land of Canaan.
Okay, now this goes back to the time that Abram, you remember Abram told Sarah to tell them that you're my sister and all this, because he feared for his life and everything. The Egyptians, of course, looked at her and thought that she was eligible. We go to chapter 20 and we look at verse 2. Ron, I guess we're back up to you.
Now Abraham said of Sarah his wife, she's my sister. And Abimelech king of Gerar sent and took Sarah.
So now this is the second time that Abraham had said that she's my sister. Again, fearing for his life. And then we look at chapter 26 and verse 7. We see a similar situation here. Jensen, 26 and verse 7.
And the man of the place asked about his wife, and he said, "She is my sister," for he was afraid to say, "She is my wife." Am I reading the right thing?
Yes.
Because he thought, "Lest the man of the place kill me for Rebekah, because she is beautiful to behold."
Okay. This is in the situation. Isaac with his wife and everything said, "She is my sister." Again, to protect him, fear of being put to death and everything for his wife. So he says, "She's my sister." And in every situation, the idea is that the Egyptians and the Canaanites regarded unmarried women abroad in the land as legitimate prey and should not have gone about unattended. And yet we see here in verse 34, or chapter 34, verse 1, that Dinah just did that very thing. So most estimate Dinah's age at this time to be somewhere around 14 to 15 years of age. There's nothing in the scriptures that tell us that. It's just that all the commentaries I looked at suggested that. So this may seem young to a modern mind, but it was prime marrying age in the ancient Near East. So Dinah would be a primary target, if you will, in this situation. Any comments? Yes, Cal.
Well, these accounts here are kind of the way kings rule.
Yes.
They have the right to take any woman they want.
Yes.
Okay. As long as she's not married.
Yes.
Now, the same thing existed in France, in Germany, and in England, okay, during the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th century, where a bride on her wedding night, if the local Lord, chose to, she had to spend the night with him, not her husband. And so it's been going on a long time.
It had to.
But-
And even to an extent, I mean, you look at David with Bathsheba. And so you see a similar situation here. David, a king and everything.
But he knew that was wrong.
He
In
knew
the
it was
beginning
wrong.
of it.
But he knew it was wrong, but he didn't really realize the guilt until it was brought to his attention.
But these kings thought it was their right, okay, if they saw a woman that they desired, if she wasn't married, then he could do it, and they would pay a price, okay, or they could pay a price and marry her if they wanted.
Yes, yeah,
But they had to pay a price if they did this.
very true. All right, let's look at verses 2 through 4. Debbie, if you want to read that for me, please.
And when Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and violated her. His soul was strongly attracted to Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the young woman and spoke kindly to the young woman. So Shechem spoke to his father Hamor, saying, "Get me this young woman as a wife." Am I going to 5?
Through verse 4, yeah. So, in your handout, this would be capital letter B. Morality is not high on the list of priorities of the worldly. Genesis 34:2. The text says that Shechem defiled Dinah. The question that Victor asked here is, did he rape her, or did he merely convince her to have sexual relations with her outside of marriage? Some of the words that define the term defile gives us some insight. It means to abuse or afflict, to deal hardly with, or to force, to humble, weaken, oppress, to be bowed down, mishandled, or to be humiliated. So if Shechem did not rape her viciously, he did defile her by having sex with her outside of the marriage bond. And he refers to Hebrews 13 verse 4, which I didn't put up there, but Hebrews 13:4 says, "Marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers God will judge." So what we have here is morality is not high on the list of priorities of the worldly, as I have up there. So, as the son of a prince, Shechem assumed that he could have anyone he wanted, anytime he wanted. And this is what Cal was talking about here. So he humiliated her as a better translation of the Hebrew than any rendering that implies rape. The New American Standard Bible uses the word lay with her by force. The King James Version uses the word he violated her. And although the word used can mean rape, it does not always mean so. So I would hesitate to say that he raped her here, but certainly he did, in fact, lay with her by force. He violated her.
Well, mine says that literally means he humbled her.
He humbled her?
Okay, so when he humbled her, he took away her honor,
Yes.
if you will.
Yes. All right, so let's look at verse 5 then. Pat, read verse 5 for me.
And Jacob heard that he had defiled Dinah, his daughter. Now his sons were with his livestock in the field. So Jacob held his peace until they came.
All right, and so now you're looking at page 85 in your handout, capital letter F, okay? So as I have up there, situations that involve evil committed against us cannot always be confronted immediately. This was an act not of mere guilt, but of defilement, i.e. ritual uncleanness, an outcast state. As has been previously noted, brothers played a significant role in a sister's marriage. Go back and look at Jacob with Leah and Rachel. So Jacob, meanwhile, remains strangely silent here. Not sure at this point, but verse 5 says that he is silent. He held his peace until they came. All right, so now let's look at verse 7. We're going to skip 6 and look at verse 7. Florence.
And the sons of Jacob came in from the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved and very angry, because he had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, a thing which ought not to be done.
So when evil strikes our homes, we are often confronted with mixed emotions. The word translated grieved is translated elsewhere shocked or hurt, indicating its effect on the brothers. He had done a disgraceful thing in Israel. This phrase is often used in the Old Testament for crimes against the honor and calling of Israel as the people of God, especially for shameful sins of the flesh. I put a couple of comments up here. Let's look at Deuteronomy 22 and verse 21. Donna, if you will.
Then they shall bring out the girl to the doorway of her father's house, and the men of the city shall stone her to death, because she has committed to an act of folly in Israel by playing the harlot in her father's house, that she shall purge the evil from among you.
Okay. And then also we look at Judges 20 and verse 10. Okay.
When verse 10 says, and will take 10 men out of 100 throughout the tribes of Israel, and 100 out of 1,000, and 1,000 out of 10,000 to supply food for the people, that when they come to Gibeah of Benjamin, they may punish them for all the disgraceful acts that they have committed in Israel.
Okay. Again, this is crimes against the honor and calling of Israel as the people of God, especially for shameful sins of the flesh. And one final one is 2 Samuel chapter 13 and verse 12. Ron, we're back up to you, I guess.
But she answered him, No, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing should be done in Israel. Do not do this disgraceful thing.
Okay, so going back to verse 7, and look at that again. It says, And the sons of Jacob came in from the field when they heard it, and the men were grieved and very angry, because he had done a disgraceful thing in Israel by lying with Jacob's daughter, a thing which ought not to be done. That two words, in Israel, the precise meaning of that phrase is not clear. It could be intended to mean against Israel. And that's the only thing I could find on it. Other than that, there's nothing that we can make out of that. Any comments through verse 7? All right, look then at verses 8 through 12. Jensen?
34, 8 to 12?
Yes.
But Hamor spoke with them, saying, The soul of my son Shechem longs for your daughter. Please give her to him as a wife, and make marriages with us. Give your daughters to us, and take our daughters for yourselves. So you shall dwell with us, and the land shall be before you. Dwell and trade in it, and acquire possessions for yourself in it. Then Shechem said to her father and her brothers, Let me find favor in your eyes, and whatever you say to me I will give. Ask me ever so much dowry and gift, and I will give according to what you say to me, but give me the young woman as a wife.
Okay. Now, going back to the question you asked about verse 11, you can see now from all of these verses that this son's name was Shechem. Now, it's probably just coincidental that, and maybe the father named him after the city Shechem. Don't know. I mean, my name's Dale, and I know that there's a small town here in Oklahoma named Dale. There's a small town named Florence here in Oklahoma.
In Texas, there's the name of the town Donna.
Donna,
I never
I'm
been
sorry.
there, though.
Well, I don't know. The King James Version kind of, I like the way it says that, because it's saying that it was Shalom, a city of Shechem.
Uh-huh.
So, in other words, it was a city that belonged to him.
That may be. That may be.
But he's a prince, right?
son of.
He was a
He
prince.
was the
yeah.
prince, yeah.
Yeah, he was the prince,
He's
so,
the heir of his father.
Yeah.
He'll be the next
so
king.
they probably named it the city after him.
They could have, because, I mean, King James Version uses that. Some of the other versions use the city of Shechem. So very well, the city could have been named after him, or he could have been named after the city, one or the other. At any rate, there is a difference, and that's what I wanted to bring out here. So we look at verses 8 through 12 then, as I have up there. Those who are evil will always attempt to make their package enticing. So, Hamor spoke as though Jacob's clan should feel honored at the proposal of a matrimonial alliance with their own princely line. Or at least they anticipate that a financial adjustment may smooth out all misunderstanding that has taken place up to this point. But to intermarry with them would be against everything that the fledgling nation stood for. Shechem further shows how far his mindset is from that of a rapist by imploring the brothers to like him and indicating that he loves Dinah so much that he is willing to pay whatever price that they name. So, any comments through verse 12? Or questions? Well, look at verses 13 through 17 then. Yes, Cal?
No,
Oh,
I'm just scratching my head.
all right. Let's see, where are we? Debbie? Are we to you?
Yes. But the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father and spoke deceitfully, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said to them, we cannot do this thing to give our sister to one who is uncircumcised, for that would be a reproach to us. How far did we go?
Through 17.
But on this condition we will consent to you, if you will become as we are. If every male of you is circumcised, then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people. But if you will not heed us and be circumcised, then we will take our daughter and be gone.
Alright, so harsh terms are often accepted when love is involved. What we see here is Jacob's sons devise a plan to exact revenge. Apparently, Jacob silently agreed. It seems as though he did not know of their plan. You look at verse 30 for a moment here, where it says, Then Jacob said to Simeon and Levi, You have troubled me by making me obnoxious among the inhabitants of the land, among the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and since I am few in number, they will gather themselves together against me and kill me. I shall be destroyed, my household and I. Just a suggestion that he may not be aware of their plan. He did, however, seem perfectly agreeable to allow Dinah to intermarry if they were circumcised. So Jacob has still not made it to Bethel, nor purged the idols from his household. Look at Genesis chapter 35, and I didn't put that up there. Genesis chapter 35, and we'll look at verses 1 through 3, where it says, Then God said to Jacob, Arise, go up to Bethel, and dwell there, and make an altar there to God, who appeared to you when you fled from the face of Esau your brother. And Jacob said to his household, and to all who were with him, Put away the foreign gods that are among you, purify yourselves, and change your garments. Then let us arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make an altar there to God, who answered me in the day of my distress, and has been with me in the way which I have gone. So you see here that Jacob knew that there were idols amongst his people. The fact that he hadn't made it to Bethel yet, he hadn't purged the idols from his household, seems to have slipped in this matter. Some good can be said of this, though. It does show that Jacob had taught his sons about God, and being in a covenant relationship with him. Now I'm talking about verses 13 through 17 here, chapter 33, being in a covenant relationship with God, they knew enough to know that circumcision was important. But outward circumcision alone would not put the Shechemites in covenant relationship with God any more than someone merely saying he believes means he has saving faith, or being dunked underwater means he has been born again. In order for the clans to merge by intermarriage, looking again at verse 16, which says, "Then we will give our daughters to you, and we will take your daughters to us, and we will dwell with you, and we will become one people." Everyone in the town would need to conform to the Israelites' customs. The brothers make a strong demand of Shechem. They said it is all or nothing. Perhaps they hoped that not everyone could be convinced. Even if that was their original intention, they still practiced deceit, as they never had any intention of letting Dinah stay among them. Any comments through verse 17 or questions? Yes,
Well, a
Kevin?
couple things.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jacob is not a warrior. He's
Right.
not a fighter.
Right.
He always seems to be running away from problems,
Yes.
never addressing problems,
True.
including the problems in his family. In this, we also see that the whole family seems to practice deceit. I mean, now we have the first son played with one of his father's concubines,
Yeah.
and then these two go out there and commit this act of treachery, okay, deceit and treachery, which was murder, okay, and they profited from it because they then, I think, took the wives and the children and probably used them as slaves. And then they took all their cattle, so basically they raped the land here.
Yep, they plummeted everything.
So
Yeah.
So these, now the first three sons have been disqualified, and we see that later, from being in the Messianic line.
Yes.
So they have disqualified themselves.
Yes.
But it's kind of interesting that's what we're seeing. And when we take a look at these men who are receiving God's blessings, we see them with all their warts and all their problems. And so I don't think he ever really controlled his children. In fact, most time when we look at parents in the Old Testament, we see some really bad parenting skills. And I'm being as gracious as I can. So,
Well,
if you want to know how not to do it, go look at the Old Testament. These guys can demonstrate it for you.
and I'll just throw in, because this is nothing in the scriptures, but maybe, just supposing, he had too many wives, too many concubines, and too many children.
Well, yeah.
Those, yes.
Well, I agree. I mean,
It's painful.
they allow people to have 4 wives, you know.
Yeah.
And so in the Middle East now, they still can have 4 wives. But I think you can also have concubines.
I think that's true, yeah.
So
In
it's
some countries, yeah.
really messed up.
So whatever happened to the idols that Rebecca hid from her father? It never came up again, huh?
No, he just says, put them away. We're going to Bethel.
It's
Well,
about
no,
to be, huh?
but then I don't think did Jacob find out about them? It never
Well, he
says.
apparently knew about them, or he wouldn't have told them in chapter 35 there, where he says, and Jacob said to his household and to all who were with him, put away the foreign gods that are among you. So he apparently knew they were there.
And so he's tolerating stuff rather than solving problems when they're small problems,
Yeah.
like this. He lets them all get out of hand.
Yeah, he did.
What was the small problem? What do you classify them?
Well,
Many small ones become one big problem.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There were many small problems here that escalated into one big problem.
but what I see is, once again, you have the competition from between the wives, which leads to competition between their children, okay? And so he's not practicing discipline like he should, and he plays favorites.
Favorites.
So, I mean, he's doing it all wrong.
Well, who does he have to blame for that?
Well, I think he got a lot of it from his parents.
Exactly right. His mom and
Well,
dad.
he learned the lessons well.
He did.
Now, what's
All right.
amazing now is that Joseph, though, breaks the mold.
Yes.
He breaks the pattern.
Yes, he does.
The favored one broke the pattern.
And that's a good way, when we get there, that's a good way to end the book of Genesis, is with Moses or Joseph breaking the pattern.
Yeah.
And leads on a positive note. So, all right, let's look at verses 18 and 19 then. Let's see. I forgot where we are. Pat?
Possibly.
Yeah. Verses 18 and 19, please.
Okay. And their words pleased Hamor and Shechem and Hamor's son. So the young men did not delay to do the things, because he delighted in Jacob's daughter, who was more honorable than all the household of his father.
Right. Yeah, just 18 and 19. So in some respect, Shechem was a respectable man, is what I said up here. Now let me explain what I mean by that. He told the brothers to name their price. Now he shows that he was serious in that offer. The words pleased his father because he wanted his son to be happy. Shechem was well liked, and this would help to convince the people. Some leaders had the quality about them that makes people willing to follow wherever they lead. And this apparently was Shechem's situation. And that's why I say that to some extent he was a respectable man. Okay? Any comments through verse 19? All right, look at verses 20 through 24. Florence?
And Hamor and Shechem his son came to the gate of their city and spoke with the men of their city, saying, These men are at peace with us. Therefore let them dwell in the land and trade in it. For indeed the land is large enough for them. Let us take their daughters to us as wives, and let us give them our daughters. Only on this condition will the men consent to dwell with us, to be one people. If every male among us is circumcised, and they are circumcised, will not their livestock, their property, and every animal of theirs be ours? Only let us consent to them, and they will dwell with us. And all who went out of the gate of the city heeded Hamor and Shechem his son. Every male was circumcised, all who went out of the gate of his city.
All right, in your handout is page 86, capital letter O, 1 and 2. So, harsh terms are often accepted when individuals think financial prosperity is involved. The gate of their city, the place where all public affairs were debated and concluded. Their intermingling will not cause any property disputes. There is plenty of land for all of them and all of us, is the point that's being made here. It was evident even to these people that Jacob was extremely wealthy, and that making a pact to intermarry with Jacob's family was a wise choice from a perspective of financial gain. Also, they expected this family to blend in with their people. Interesting, though, is the fact that they do not mention the financial benefit that the Israelites stand to gain. Hamor and Shechem are politicians when you think about it, and they're politicians of the finest form here. Like other political leaders in the world, they make their own lust appear to be in the interest of the community. Any comments through verse 24 or questions?
Well,
Yes, Cal.
on the face of it, both parties here think they're coming up with the upper hand. So, Hamor and Shechem, they think they see great benefit. I think they realize the blessings that God is showering on Jacob and becoming intermarrying with him doesn't just bring financial stuff, but maybe they're going to inherit those blessings too. So I think both of them had intent. Which one is most dishonorable? I don't know. I think you're right. Shechem is besotted with the girl, and I think he's trying to make it right.
Yeah, he is.
His dad wants him to be happy, and so they convince the rest of them. But at the same time, they're thinking financially, this is going to be good for us.
You can say that.
Yeah, they can say
Every
it.
animal of theirs will be ours.
Will be ours eventually.
Right.
That's their goal, that's their end plan.
I appreciate the comments tonight. Our time is up, but I do want to let you know that Florence and I are going to be gone for the next 2 Wednesday nights. So Ron has graciously agreed to teach the class, and I appreciate that very much. Him filling in. I will be back the Wednesday after Thanksgiving. So stay there, and we'll finish up chapter 34 that Wednesday night.
You won't be back. What is it?
It just got so cold today and everything. We're going south,
That's a good.
all the way to Panama.
We're not going to
Spanish.
teach this lesson or different lesson.
Un poquito.
He's probably going to teach what he comes up with. He rarely teaches the same thing Dale teaches.
Well, I knew that from the past. That's why it sounded like he maybe was going to continue.
He'll rock himself up.
Chris will be back. Now I got to go on the road again tomorrow.
Where are you going tomorrow? Oh, to go pick up
Okay.
It's a long way up to Montana, man.
Yeah.
It's cold up there.
You going to Montana?
Oh,
Yeah.
morning we left was 3 below 0. We were up there, it'd be like 90 degrees, and I ended up going 30 miles an hour.
But I complained about being cold here.
Oh, that's not cold there.
See?